going to start with you, Robert. Why, we've been talking about cloud computing for some time, and I think it's been available for pretty much the last decade for Dynamics 365. So why are manufacturing companies still challenged with moving their business applications to the cloud?
I think several-fold. I mean, one is culturally more traditional in processes. I would say the general theme is if it's not broke, don't fix it. We don't necessarily need, and I'm going to use some of their terms we hear from newfangled contraptions are going to just basically cause us to do the same thing. And as long as the world remains constant, as what we all realize how quickly things can change, that works. But once supply chains become extended or overreached, I would say, when MRP becomes much more of a demand focus because there's no longer finagling that's required. They need data, as Janet mentioned, faster. They need to be able to make insightful types of decisions. It's been an accelerant, if you will, and a lot of I'm going to just use the term green screen types of machines. One of the other, I'll say, accelerants during the pandemic itself that helped to enable, I would say, some of the reasons why are the catalyst events for ERP implementations to upgrade to D365 in the cloud was some of the folks that were the original administrators of those systems said, you know what, I think this is going to be my retirement year. I don't think I want to play ball anymore. I think I have enough. We're going to go ahead and I'm just going to move on. And so when everything again was stable and reliable, it all worked. A little bit of tweaks here and there, somebody leaving, like I mentioned about the supply chain, there has to be a reaction to that. And fortunately enough, because in working also with Debbie, we created a very good, I would say, shepherding strategy to how do we take them from fear and panic to here's a game plan, how do we align to that? How do we coach them through each one of the steps? And at the end of the day, not only deliver success, but say, it's going to be okay. We can get through this.
Okay, thanks, Robert. Janet, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I totally agree with Robert that a lot of it has to do with, if the CIO has been there for 20 or 30 years, there is some resistance to looking at something new. And sticking with what they have. And so it's not unusual for us to hear, we're probably not going to change until the CIO retires. And that's one area. But the other area is just, it's a big undertaking. And a lot of companies, I think it boils down to two things: fear of change and money. And so they just kind of keep going, doing what they're doing because they don't realize how much better their business could be in the cloud, leveraging some of the new technology, specifically the level of integration of data that you can get in the cloud that you cannot get on-prem without an awful lot of cost. So I think that if they could do more envisioning, there might be less resistance. But again, that the CIOs that are resistant to change are the gatekeepers unless you can get to the business people.
And just to add to your point about data in on-prem systems, by the time you actually get the data out into a usable format, it's a lot of times obsolete, right? Where a cloud data, it's real time. Okay, Debbie, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I'm going to just extend what Janet said. I think a lot of people know that this is a direction that everyone's going. If they want to buy a modern ERP, there isn't any option if it's not on the cloud. There really is no other option. So I think there's a struggle on how do we get started? Where do we jump off the cliff, if you will? And the idea of envisioning what that future looks like. At Sikich, we've been using a framework called Catalyst. It's been developed by Microsoft that helps us work with organizations to create that picture, to show them what it's going to look like and help them understand how to get there in a way that prioritizes the things that make the biggest business benefits. So I think yes, it has to happen, but a lot of organizations need to see the justification for the money, for the spend. So that process helps us line up the steps to take, understand the investment required to take those steps so that you've got a bit of a clearer path forward. And I think that makes a big difference when people actually get a vision of what it's going to look like once they get there.
Okay, Debbie, thank you. So Cindy, from your perspective, why do companies sort of slowly move towards the cloud instead of running there?
Right, and I think a big part of it that everyone's already addressed is the fear of change, right? I think for us, it was also a concern about losing control. And so that was one of the things we really had to work through quite a bit on, if we needed extra, horsepower or extra servers or anything performance-wise, we could take care of that ourselves. And so having to rely on somebody else was a different undertaking for us. We're rather independent. And then also performance was a big issue for us. So we did an assessment through a partner through Sikich to kind of assess what that would take to move from on-prem to the cloud. We educated our team quite a bit on what that would take. Put in to some of those recommendations from security assessment, but we also beefed up our internet pipe at those locations so we could address that performance issue for our users. And so just understanding all of that, and I think long term now, the ROI on that will come through because now it's all being taken care of, through the Microsoft cloud base. We don't have to worry about servers, maintenance, backups, any of those types of things. It actually kind of simplifies things for our IT department.
Thank you so much for watching our video. If you want to get in touch with any of the experts you saw today, please visit www.sikich.com and we'll be happy to get you in touch with them. If you learned something new in this video, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more content in the future.